Contrary to what you might experience at your doctor's office, magazines go beyond Reader's Digest, and they have been produced in the last 20 years.
You're a voice actor. You're an entrepreneur. You're a VOpreneur. Welcome to the Everyday VOpreneur podcast, your guide through the business of voiceover.
Your number one marketing tool is your voiceover demos. When you're posting them online, you want to be sure they're playable on any device and with any browser. The VoiceSam player does exactly that. Sign up at msvo.me/msvoicesam and receive 3 months of VoiceSam for the price of one. Sign up now at msvo.me/msvoicesam.
The VOpreneur podcast. Hey, it doesn't suck.
Not as funny as Conan. Not as cute as Seth Meyers. Not as smart as Colbert. But he's one of us, and that counts for something. Here's Mark Scott, the original Everyday VOpreneur.
Hey, what's up, and welcome to another episode of the Everyday VOpreneur podcast, your guide through the business of voiceover. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, thanks for taking the time to leave your reviews wherever you listen to your fine podcasts that are given away for free. I appreciate all the reviews that you share on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, and Podbean. Every one of those reviews helps us to get found by more people so that we can help more people through the business of voiceover. This week, we're going to talk about something a little bit different. We're going a little bit old school on this one. And I say old school because probably that's the way most people think about today's subject. But really, it's not that old school. We all know what it's like to walk into the doctor's office or walk into the dentist's office and to find this massive stack of Reader's Digest magazines from 1995. And we sit there and we read through the jokes and some of the funny stories, and we've read them all 100 times because it's been the same magazine since we ever started going to the doctor's office. And that's kind of how we think about magazines now. They've gone kind of the way of newspaper in that it's just one of those things that as technology evolved, we shifted away from it, Not as many people get the newspaper delivered to their door anymore, and hardly anybody still has a subscription to an actual magazine. This week, I want to try to get you to think about that a little bit differently. When it comes to growing our voiceover businesses, when it comes to marketing our voiceover businesses, when it comes to training for voiceover, we tend to operate in a very, very, very small, restrictive box. We read the voiceover blogs. We read the books about voiceover that were written by voice actors. We work with voiceover coaches. We attend voiceover conferences. We listen to voiceover podcasts. We join all of the voiceover groups on social media. We follow all of our favorite voice actors on social media, and that tends to be the extent of our education. Everything is very much restricted to being inside of this little tiny voiceover box. And one of the things that I work really hard at in what I do through this podcast and through my social media channels is encouraging you to look outside of that box. All of those things that I've just mentioned, the voiceover blogs, the voiceover books, the voiceover coaches, they're all fantastic. They're all part of your training. But if you want a well-rounded training experience, and if you want to be able to grow your business outside of certain circles, then you're going to have to look outside of the traditional box in order to find the information that is going to help you to grow. One of the things that you will hear me say over and over and over again is that leads are literally everywhere. The question that I pose to people when they come to me and ask me, where do I find voiceover opportunities? How do I find new clients? Where am I supposed to look for these leads? I always ask them, think about who needs a voiceover and where do you find them? Who could benefit from your voiceover services and where can you find these people? And what you're going to realize when you sit down and you really authentically start to brainstorm that question is that there are a million different places that could benefit from your voiceover services in a million different ways that go beyond the traditional commercial campaign or the video game. There are so many different options that are out there. And one of the ways to find and connect with these people is through magazines. So a few weeks ago in the VOpreneur group, I posted a topic on the subject of magazines and asked if there was anybody out there that was still reading them, and if so, what magazines were you reading, and how had they benefited your business? And I got several really great responses. And I was really excited to see this too, because of the fact that I enjoy reading magazines, and I have a couple of subscriptions, and I use them to grow my own voiceover business. So that's what this week's episode is going to be all about. We're going to talk about some of the magazines that other voice actors are using that have benefited their voiceover business. And maybe that's going to encourage you to either sign up for one of these subscriptions to the magazines that you hear mentioned in this episode, or it's going to start you thinking about the magazines that might be out there that could help you in a specific genre or niche that you're pursuing. And that's what it's all about. It's all about expanding your thinking to opportunities outside of that traditional little voiceover box. One area where I think that every voice actor needs to focus a lot of attention is in their local community. And in fact, I teach a course called Booking in Your Backyard, which is a 2-hour masterclass all about marketing right within your own community, all about the different ways to get connected with leads, with prospects and clients right within your own community. That 2-hour video course is available at markscottcoaching.com, and it's something that I think is really important because when you break it down on a local level, first of all, a lot of businesses like to work with local businesses. It's something that we all just have inherently inside of us. And the other thing to consider is, depending on the market that you live in, how many voice actors are actually in your community? And so when you break it down on a local level, you're going to have a lot less competition on that local level than you are on a national scale or an international scale or even on a casting site. Cindy Drago brought a really great perspective to the whole magazine conversation when she talked about a regional business publication that she uses to help her within her own community. Listen to what Cindy has to say.
In my previous corporate life, we received a subscription to the Regional Business Review publication at my office. It covers business news from across all industries and is published in over 40 markets across the United States. So chances are you can find one that covers your region. In some cities, it is referred to as the Business Journal. They also offer online subscriptions, which is what I now have access to, and stories are added every day. I'm constantly learning about a thriving business in my region that I had never even heard of. For example, I was aware of a few high-profile video game developers in my region until a story in the Business Review profiled the video game boom in our region, and I learned there are more than 25 developers in my area. That same story also mentioned an upcoming gamer convention downtown, so I bought a ticket and I showed up. It was nice to have a bit of background when meeting some of those companies. The articles themselves also present excellent touch points when reaching out in your marketing efforts. New products or services, expansion plans, and industry awards are all topics regularly covered, and they all make great conversation starters. Other features include an on-the-move section filled with new hires and promotions. They also have a book of lists, which will show things like the top healthcare companies or the top legal firms. They also have yearly awards, such as 40 Under 40, which spotlight people under the age of 40 doing great things, and a yearly best places to work list. On a local and regional level, it's been my best lead generation tool.
The Regional Business Review is published in over 40 markets across the United States, which means that it's probably available for your geographic region, if not for your specific town, at the very least for your geographic region. And like Cindy said, so many incredible opportunities to learn about what is happening in your own community and then getting a direct connection to those opportunities and those quality leads. One of the biggest complaints that I hear from voice actors when it comes to marketing is, Mark, I went on somebody's website and all I could find was an info@ email address and I don't know who I'm supposed to contact. Well, as you're scrolling through the pages of the Regional Business Review publication and you're seeing interviews with actual business owners, you're getting their actual name now, which means you've got somebody you can actually reach out to on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for that suggestion, Cindy. That's actually one that I hadn't heard of before. So now I'm curious. I want to check out and see whether or not there's something that exists like that in my local area, because I think there's plenty of good opportunities that could come from that. And remember, if you want to learn how to market on a local level, check out Booking in Your Backyard, which is available at markscottcoaching.com. So one of my favorite magazines to subscribe to, it's one that I've had a subscription to off and on for many years, is Entrepreneur magazine. You know, that particularly doesn't have anything to do with voiceover, but what are we? This is the Everyday VOpreneur podcast. The group that I run on Facebook is called VOpreneur, voice actor, entrepreneur, VOpreneur. And so a subscription for me to Entrepreneur Magazine makes an awful lot of sense because I want to learn how to be a better entrepreneur. I believe that in learning how to be a better entrepreneur, I can become a better voice actor, but it's also going to give me the skill set that I need to be able to grow my business. And so I love my subscription to Entrepreneur Magazine. I have it digitally, so I'm able to sit down and read it on my iPad. I can take it with me wherever I go, if I'm traveling, if I'm on an airplane, if I'm riding shotgun in the car while we're driving on a trip somewhere, whatever. I've always got access to that magazine, and I don't have to worry about trying to find places to store it afterwards, which was always a big issue for me in the past. So I love my digital subscription to Entrepreneur Magazine. I get a ton of articles that teach me all different aspects of entrepreneurship, from the business and marketing side, from the creative side, the productivity side. So all of those things provide me with incredible insight, with tips, with workflows, with ideas, with suggestions, with apps and software and tools that I've checked out in the past. But the other side of it is I'm learning about entrepreneurs who are starting businesses, entrepreneurs who are running businesses. I'm seeing interviews with people who can potentially become leads for me. And so, again, opening yourself up to outside of the traditional box, a magazine that is filled with tons of information that is going to make you a better business operator while simultaneously connecting you indirectly with potential leads that you could work with directly if all you do is reach out. Entrepreneur Magazine is a brilliant magazine, also a very brilliant blog as well. So check that out at entrepreneur.com, but definitely one that I think you should consider for your subscription. Another one that is a really good one, and this is incredibly relevant to our industry, is a suggestion that was made by Joni Silva. In fact, she's got two suggestions that kind of go hand in hand with each other. It's one that I've never subscribed to before, but after listening to what Joni has to say, I think it's one that I'm probably going to be checking out. Here's what Joni Silva suggests for her magazine subscription.
So recently in the VOpreneur group, Mark wanted to know what magazines we read that help us professionally and, what specifically we get out of them. My main choices were Ad Age and Adweek. My introduction to both of these magazines came from working with the advertising industry, specifically the One Club for Creativity, which is also one of the top 3 advertising award shows in the business. Ad Age and Adweek are where the creatives come to see what's going on in their industry. They provide access for me that I would never have. And because they have their finger on the pulse, they ask all the right questions and I get to hear the answers. Then I take that and apply that to my business structure, my marketing plan, and most importantly, my performance. So listen, this is very important to know if you don't already. The advertising industry moves fast and reinvents itself quickly. As a voiceover artist, these are my people. I better know what they're thinking and how they're changing. These 2 magazines help keep me and the work I do relevant. Another great reason, and maybe even the most important reason, is that they're going to report to you the outcomes and who's winning pencils at the One Show, Lions at Cannes, and even at the Clios. As soon as I read about the winners, I go and find the ads and watch them. Okay, let's talk about another very important advantage of Ad Age and Adweek, and that is marketing to my own business. I now know every major ad agency, but I also know the small ones and the global players as well. That tiny little agency in Thailand that's hot might just be looking for a voice actor that knows what's going on, and that's going to be me. Now I know who created that ad, and I can market to that agency, and even to that creative, by email or even their social media. Ad Age is about $2.10 a week, and I think Adweek is running a special rate right now of $4 for 40 days. Worth every penny to stay relevant with the current trends and a virtual goldmine for marketing to the agencies and the video production companies working with them.
Much like what I said I do with Entrepreneur Magazine, Joni is doing a similar thing with Ad Age and Adweek, taking the information gleaned and applying it to her business structure, her marketing plan, but then also being able to go a step further than that and applying it to her performance because she's hearing from the people behind the commercials, from the creative directors behind the commercials, from the agencies behind the commercials, and she's getting a sense of what the trends are right now in advertising. And if you can know that information up front, that is going to give you better auditions. And so that is a brilliant suggestion for a magazine subscription, and one that I think we should all probably be looking into. Ad Age and Ad Week. Thank you so much for that, Joni. It is an opportunity to find out who's creating the best of the best. And again, now you know who to connect with. Rather than having to go out and do those Google searches and once again coming up with a generic email address and not being able to figure out who the point person is, who are the names that are mentioned in the magazine? Who are the people that are getting interviewed in the magazine? Now you've got direct connections that you can either look up on LinkedIn or that you can look up on Google. So taking advantage of the tools that are available to you. The voice acting community is one of the most giving communities that you will ever encounter. On any given day, there is so much advice being handed out, whether it's through Facebook, through YouTube, through blogs, podcasts, other forms of social media. So many people are looking to help. And I believe that one of the reasons for that is because as we all get better at running our voiceover businesses, it's better for the industry as a whole. Here's the challenge. Just because somebody has a YouTube channel or a Twitter following or has the capacity to write a blog doesn't specifically mean that they're somebody that you should be taking advice from. So one of the things that I wanted to do was to compile a resource of people that I knew could be trusted and collect advice from them. I reached out to 35 industry mentors, and I asked every one of them the same question. If you could give a voice actor one piece of advice, what would it be? I reached out to people like Joe Cipriano, like Pat Fraley, Nancy Wolfson, Joan Baker, Chuck Duran, Everett Oliver, J. Michael Collins, Mary Lynn Wisner, Jeffrey Umberger, and so many more. 35 people in the voiceover industry that I know, respect, and trust, and that I know will give good advice to you. I took all of this advice and I compiled it together into a free ebook called One Piece of Advice. And that ebook is available at markscottcoaching.com/one piece of advice. This is an opportunity for you to learn for free from some of the most respected people in our industry, to take their advice and use it to make yourself better and grow your voiceover business. You can download that free ebook now at markscottcoaching.com/one piece of advice.
Now, back to our show.
Much like Entrepreneur, one of the other magazines that I enjoy and subscribe to is Fast Company. Sometimes the information is a little bit similar, but with Fast Company, it's really connecting me to a lot of businesses, to a lot of startups. I get to hear more about the startup story. I get to hear more about how businesses operate. I get to hear more tips on operating a business. And so it gives me, kind of similar but different information to Entrepreneur magazine, but it also gives me a ton of leads. And not just leads for me, but sometimes I pass those leads on to other voice actors that are in my community because I know that they are working on a specific genre or, working with specific types of companies or looking to carve out a specific niche area for themselves. And so Fast Company has been invaluable to me and also to some of the people in my network. And so another one that I subscribe to digitally, just like Entrepreneur, I'm able to take it with me on my iPad, and I have got a ton of great information and a ton of great leads out of it. So Fast Company, another great blog, by the way, that you can check out as well, but a magazine that I think that you should probably consider adding into the mix. Now, this next one, I laughed a little bit because when Nikki Mondolini told me what she subscribed to, I knew that there were going to be people that were like, oh, she's all in it for the gossip. But actually, that's not what Nikki is doing with her magazine subscription. Listen to what she recommends.
I love Entertainment Weekly. I've had the subscription for about 10 years now. And I say it's my guilty pleasure because I love reading interviews with actors, directors, producers, or writers. I love their stories. I love to read everything they have to say about their creative process, how they started, basically their whole story. So I'm really addicted to that, I have to admit. But I also think it's a great research tool. I do on-camera work as well as voiceover, so for me it's very important to know who the showrunners are and who the casting directors are for a specific show or a film that I might be auditioning for. You never know. And I also apply that for voiceover. I often get asked during a session, for example, or even in the specs for an audition, there's a reference to a specific actor, to an actor from a scene in a movie or, I don't know, a show or something that is very distinctive to them. They might not know how to give direction very well, but as soon as they think of an actor in a specific scene and they mention it, and if I know who they're talking about, what the character is, what the genre is, then we're both on the same page, and it just makes the session go a lot smoother.
Using it for research purposes for both on-camera and for voiceover. Brilliant. So if you're an on-camera actor, and like Nikki said, getting to know who the showrunners are, that can be really valuable information. But the other thing that I really liked was when she talked about how sometimes in an audition, we've all seen it. They mention a specific actor or they reference a specific scene from a movie or from a show, and maybe you're not familiar with that movie or that scene or that show. I'll tell you, I don't watch a ton of TV and I don't watch a ton of movies. And so sometimes I see these references and I've actually got to punch them up on Google and I got to look them up on YouTube because I don't know who these people are and I don't know what they sound like. But for Nikki, as she's reading through the pages of Entertainment Weekly, it's prompting her to all of those things, and that becomes information that she can put in her back pocket and take with her into auditions, helping her to nail those auditions. So from a research and education standpoint, specifically related to voiceover and more of the performance side of voiceover, there's a lot of value in Entertainment Weekly besides all of the latest celebrity gossip. Magazines are something that we don't traditionally think about because it seems like it's a dying art form. And I know that with the announcement of Apple News Plus and their new subscription service, Apple is trying to bring back the magazine a little bit in that digital format. And they are trying to encourage people to start subscribing and reading to magazines again. And I use an app on my iPad that is called Zinio. And that's an app that I'm able to download and I'm able to subscribe to all different kinds of magazines. And I got some great deals when I subscribed to Entrepreneur and to Fast Company. It's a easy to use app. And that's definitely another one that you might want to check out, that if you're not looking to subscribe to 100 magazines, but maybe you just want to pick one or two specific ones, Zinio might be a more affordable way to go. But there's so much good information that's in there. And I think about, I was at a conference, I want to say maybe that it was the Mid-Atlantic Voiceover Conference. Actually, no, you know what? I think it was the Midwest Voiceover Conference in Columbus, Ohio in 2016. And Joe Cipriano was speaking there. And I think that was the conference where he talked about it. But, when we think about Joe Cipriano and all of the work that Joe does and network television and all that sort of stuff, we assume that he probably just has agents that are out there that are getting all of this work for him. And, he just gets to sit back and do the voiceover and cash the checks. And Joe said something that really stood out to me. He talked about how, as part of his daily marketing efforts, because even Joe Cipriano was doing marketing, he would read Variety. And for much the same reason as what Nikki was doing, as he was going through the pages of Variety magazine, he was finding out what the new shows were, what was coming up, what was in the tank, what ideas were out there, who the movers and shakers were within the industry, showrunners, executive producers, all of that sort of stuff. And all of that became information that he would ultimately forward to his agent, so helping his agent within the marketing efforts. Even somebody like Joe Cipriano taking the reins of his career, making sure that there's always fresh leads in the pipeline, and using Variety magazine as a way to make that happen. Don't just write these off as old school. Don't just think about magazines as the Reader's Digest at the doctor's office. Take advantage of the information that is out there and the learning opportunities that are presented as a result of it. I don't subscribe to Inc. magazine, but I certainly read their blog on a regular basis. Again, helping me to become better at voiceover as far as running a business. Same thing with Forbes. I don't subscribe to Forbes magazine, but I do subscribe to their blog feed, and I'm always reading articles that are helping me to become better in sales and marketing and business. There are a lot of different magazines that I read articles from without subscribing to the actual magazines because they're teaching me how to be a better business operator. So I want to say thank you to Cindy Drago and the Regional Business Review, which is published in over 40 markets across the U.S. Great suggestion on that one. to Joni Silva for her suggestion of Ad Week and Ad Age, both of those providing massive value and opportunities, to Nikki Mondolini for sharing Entertainment Weekly, to Joe Cipriano, who indirectly, through an experience at a conference, made me think about Variety Magazine, and then the suggestions that I made, both Entrepreneur and Fast Company, which both of those bring value. You got to look outside of the traditional voiceover box. You got to get outside of that little bubble that we've created for ourselves to find the different opportunities. Like, let's talk about a practical way that you could apply this. Let's say that your life revolves around fishing. That you can't wait until you're done your work in the booth because you want to get down to the lake and go fishing. And at least 3 or 4 times a week and every single weekend you find yourself at the lake fishing or going on some sort of fishing adventure or fishing expedition, and you've got a fishing boat, and this is what you do. This is your hobby and this is part of who you are. So what if you subscribed to a magazine or magazines about fishing, and that was giving you articles and advertisements, helping you stay on top of all of the latest products, brands, influencers within the fishing world. And then you were able to create targeted marketing to those people, and you were able to turn this passionate hobby of yours into a niche market for yourself in voiceover, all because you subscribed to the right magazine that got you in front of the right people. Maybe your life revolves around racing and hot rods and muscle cars and mechanics, and same thing. What if you subscribed to a couple of the magazines that helped you see the advertisements and helped you stay on top of the latest brands, the latest trends, the latest influencers, getting interviews with people that work at these brands so that now you've got direct names, the people that you could contact out. Again, subscribe to the magazine and see what happens. At the end of the day, you get some education, you get some reading, you get a little bit of a break from the voiceover booth. It doesn't cost you a whole lot of money. Lots of times you can get these magazine subscriptions for, $25-$30 for the course of the year. But at the very best, it's going to direct you to some leads and open up some opportunities. And that's the way that I want you to think about using magazines to help you grow your voiceover business and help you become a more successful everyday VOpreneur. Guys, thanks so much for checking out this episode. I'll catch you on the next one.
The Everyday VOpreneur podcast. Available everywhere fine podcasts are given away for free. Mostly, we think.
Your number one marketing tool is your voiceover demos. When you're posting them online, you want to be sure they're playable on any device and with any browser. The VoiceSam player does exactly that. Sign up at msvo.me/msvoicesam and receive 3 months of VoiceSam for the price of 1. Sign up now at msvo.me/msvoicesam.
Hold for tech.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for hanging in. Thanks for hanging out. Want more VOpreneur goodness? Jump online at VOpreneur.com.